We're starting now. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Dr. Kerstin Hacker. I'm here to present with my fellow co-presenters and co-founders of Bakashimika a story about Bakashimika, where we have come so far and where we're going to go in the future, hopefully. So the co-founders of Bakashimika are Patrick Chilaisha, Geoffrey Phiri, and Edith Chiliboy, together with myself. Bakashimika is an international photography festival, the first one of its kind in Zambia, and the only one at the moment in Southern Africa. But so to kind of just for people who are less aware of the geography of where Zambia is and why and how to find it. So Zambia is right in the middle of Africa, a little bit south of Congo, and Zambia is one of those countries that sometimes isn't part of the understanding of Africa, I would say. So Zambia is kind of sometimes a little bit hidden because it's right in the middle. So what we want to do is put Zambia on the map, and we founded Bakashimika with the help of a lot of people that we will talk about in a little bit. But Bakashimika is basically a Bemba word, and Bakashimika means a group of storytellers or stories that will be told in the future. The ambition is to become a photography festival for Southern African photography on the international festival circuit. Edith, over to you.
Oh, yes, please. Kerstin, could you share? Yes.
Generation Z, and
so the previous, to start with Generation Z, was started by Dr. Kerstin Hacker. That was in 2016. I was about to say 2026, but it's in 2016 by Dr. Kerstin Hacker. The whole point of Generation Z, in summary, was to show everyday life of the Zambian growing affluent middle class in urban areas, as compared to how Zambia is presented in the Western world, with visual narratives of the African population growth, epidemics, as well as poverty. So she attempted to combine the acknowledgement of our own Western visual heritage and experience of extended stay in Lusaka, Zambia, to combat that view. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we have a little bit of a distortion, Edith. So do you mind if I take over? Just to maybe try to see if you can improve your connection a little bit, if possible.
Okay, is that better? Is my connection better here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next one is, can you still hear me?
Stories of Kalingalinga.
Yes, so Stories of Kalingalinga, in collaboration with the Henry Kayali Gallery, was a way of documenting Kalingalinga as it changes every single day. There's a process of gentrification that's happening in Kalingalinga, and in the next years, it will definitely not look the same. It being a high density populated area, in Zambia we call them compounds, as compared to the lightly populated areas in the urban town. Kalingalinga keeps on changing every single time, and how people get to realize and relate to it is fast moving, especially that it's literally close to the central district, and there's so much bursting life and activity that goes on in Kalingalinga. So documenting it was part of the purpose of Stories of Kalingalinga. And then when we get to Photo COVID Zambia, so Photo COVID Zambia was a way of us responding to COVID as it was happening. This is so the space Photo COVID Zambia provided a space where photographers could actually come in and talk about their experiences during photography, more like a creative response. And it was the only project in Zambia that we know of that was actually taking place at the time, a photographic group. It created a space where every Tuesday photographers could come in and have conversations about their experiences. It sort of became like a safe hub for all photographers who were part of Photography Zambia. This was sponsored by the Angela Ruskin University, and it helped photographers continue with their creative practice. And then we go on to the
Cambridge Visual Cultures.
Yes, so the Cambridge Visual Cultures, which was done by Dr. Kerstin Hacker as well as Sana Jinwala, were a way of intervening in the archives of the Cambridge archives. So as they went along, they had a creative response to the archives and brought them to life through a short film that they produced and a few catalogs, and having that discourse between the Zambian archives that was stored in the Cambridge archives, as well as the experience of Sana Junwala being an archive specialist and Dr. Kerstin Hacker being a photographic researcher. And when we get on to the
Connections, Communities.
The Connections Communities was a response to the cultural fellowship that happened with Sana Jinwala and Dr. Kerstin Hacker. It was carried forth to have two visual photographic artists, come in to sort of have a response to the archives to create visual works. That was, the project was between Sana Junwala, Dr. Kerstin Hacker, I myself, Edith Chiliboy, and Mangela Vumbibika. So together we produced different types of works. Between Zing magazines, a short film, as well as photographic works that were presented during an exhibition. A basic summary of the entire.
Thank you, Edith. Very good. So it's the Royal Commonwealth Society archive we were working with, and they are based in the Cambridge University Library. We were very lucky to kind of be part of that collaboration. And so, mission statements. Patrick, over to you, mission statement 1.
Okay.
Sorry, Patrick, can I just very briefly, so what we're doing now is kind of go through, so out of all of these different interventions that we had over the years now, kind of, so we were working really since 2017 on different collaborations, and out of these interventions came then Bakashimika. And so all these mission statements we are going through now is actually kind of what we want to do with Bakashimika. And so over to you, Patrick.
Sure, thank you. So mission statement 1 is practically the introduction to Bakashimika itself, how the festival came up. So Bakashimika is an annual photography festival. It celebrates the rich cultural history that we have found, or rich photographic community we have seen here, and from the people we've also come in contact with, be it in Zambia and the Southern African region. So the idea of the festival was to provide a platform to bring young emerging photographers that really didn't have a place to showcase their work. and bring all these innovative ideas together and tell really good, innovative African stories through photography and lens-based art.
Lovely. Thank you, Patrick. Over to you again, Edith. Community building, mission statement 2.
Yes, the mission statement too. Our main point of Bakashimika Photography Festival is to build communities around photography and also bring together the wealth of photography in Zambia and the region, and to create regional awareness about the photographic talent that exists in Zambia. For there's so much talent that is hidden that needs a platform to come out to life.
Super. Thank you, Edith. Geoffrey, I think you're next with, I think mission statement 3.
Number 3, yeah.
The
Yeah,
lack
so
of
I will
spaces.
talk about spaces. Yeah, I will talk about spaces. The growth of Bakashimika is been very natural, and I would say it has been smooth flowing. Why? Because there's just true and natural demand for spaces for emerging artists, space artists in Zambia. I would say photography existed, but the spaces from where emerging artists would expose themselves, or how do you say, interact with professionals and other established artists never existed. And maybe again the other thing is the spaces. When we talk about the spaces, we're talking about the spaces in what space the emerging artists, the photographers consider themselves, as in is it just photography or is it an art or something? And Bakashimika is providing the environment in which the young emerging artists or race-based artists would find collaboration with how do you say with the world out there and within themselves. I think there's also important. It's also important for artists to collaborate within themselves. I think that's a most important starting point, and from there it's easier for the artists, the place-based artists, to find platforms internationally and collaborations.
Thank you, Geoffrey. One more over to Edith about the contemporary stories and number 4. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. I lost you for a second there. So the Bakashimika International Photography Festival gives a platform to visual storytellers and their contemporary stories found within vibrant and visually exciting photographic arts community in the Southern African region. So we aim to create a safe space for the stories to be told without any form of prejudice or fear of being judged in the Southern African region.
Super. Thank you, Edith. Over to you again, Patrick.
Oh, okay. So from the previous workshops before Bakashimika itself, and after we had our first edition, we also noticed a steady growth in the local audience numbers during the photographic events. We saw a lot of people really interested in photography and more events around photography and the lens-based arts. So this gave us a way to introduce photography to a broader audience, not only to Zambia, because we saw the interest was also a bit outside of Zambia and a lot of the Southern African regions that didn't have such a platform as Bakashimika. So that brought a broader audience in the Southern African region.
Thank you, Patrick. So, so what we really also wanted to do was to bring, so at the moment in Zambia, there's very little opportunity to learn at an academic level about photography. We have one private university called Open Window in Lusaka, which is quite a new institution, but they are doing a lot of work around trying to build research, but I think Bakashimika is really kind of the center where we can bring together research from here, from the UK. We also had participation from the University of Groningen in the Netherlands last year. So to bring people together that do research around photography in Zambia. So Bakashimika wants to be that center that brings together different research strands that are all looking at the condition of photography in Southern Africa. We probably should separate it slightly. South Africa is actually has quite a long history around photography. The rest of the Southern African countries have less so, and we're going to go into the detail why that is a little bit later. Geoffrey, this is you again, about the international.
Yeah. So what it is, I've been starting to say, Bakashimika believes, but I'm not very sure about the term believes. Those beliefs, for me, it sounds like there's a doubt. But in Bakashimika, we know for sure that through the events that were happening, we are positioning Zambia as well as Southern Africa for visibility to the world out there. And I think it's only through creating that visibility that we can attract and be attracted to the world out there. And yeah, I think for me, yeah, that still comes up to the natural methods of how this has happened. We have positioned ourselves. Bakashimika is positioned Southern Africa for visibility, for interaction. In the end, I think we are attracting a lot of attention and a lot of participation from the north and the south, and that way I think that's a sure way that we know that this the photography lens-based artist practice around here is going to develop. It's going to grow.
Thank you, Geoffrey. So I wanted to kind of just introduce a little bit about the idea why I am here as well. Why you might wonder why I am here kind of thinking about a photography festival in Zambia. So my research about photography in Zambia came out of me being an international, a photographer for non-governmental organizations, and before I became an academic. And my question was always, why am I traveling the world? Why are these photographs not produced within the country itself? This is where the very starting point of everything that came afterwards and why I ended up in Zambia. So one of the things, so I then ended up doing a PhD around the history of photography in Zambia and the practice-based research that we are showcasing here today. So the colonial, so what I discovered was kind of that this historic vision of Africa really kind of stems back to colonial photography, how photography was used to inform the colonial motherland, whatever, how they wanted to see the dominions that they have created during colonialism. So photography had a very distinct purpose. It had to show kind of that there was land for the taking, that there was poverty, that was kind of that was so that the colonial powers had influence there, that could improve the situation, all these kind of things. So there was a certain narrative, and that had to be supported by images. So therefore what happened was kind of that you would see lots of empty landscapes where there were no people kind of that were impacted by the colonial endeavor. You also had lots of poverty, illness. Some of these visual languages are still being used today when you think about tourism, when you think about safari photography, when you think about NGO photography. So these are the images kind of that we are still familiar with now when we think of Africa. And I think therefore Bakashimika is such an important platform because it's changing that narrative. So we are hoping kind of to create another set of images that people can refer to when they think of the African continent. So this is kind of from a Facebook page from the Zambian Tourism Board. So while that, lovely images as they are, they just tell such a narrow story, and what we are hoping is kind of to broaden out the story and make kind of Zambia much more interesting than just a destination for safaris and for NGO destination for So this is where my research came in. I created together with, so what happened was kind of that throughout these workshops, we were able to kind of create knowledge together, and my methodology around the workshops was really helpful, where we could build trust, kind of also kind of the slow research, where you kind of bring together people for a long time, where you don't expect kind of immediate results. So many research projects in higher education have funding maybe for 1 year, maybe if you're lucky for 2, and then kind of the collaboration breaks down again. So what we did was actually kind of over the last 20 years, we have built trust, we have brought people together that are really thinking about this problem. So that meant that I became what I call a privilege-cognisant mentor. So I'm very aware of what my position is, and that I constantly have to question if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm kind of in the right position, if I'm overstepping, all these kind of things. So I think there's something to learn both. So also for me, or kind of from that methodology, it's really important to think about, I'm hoping kind of that I can show an example on how we can collaborate with the Global South in a much more meaningful and trusting way. So slow research is really kind of something where we, by making it slow, by allowing time, by allowing us to think about the issues that we are confronted with, we can create, what happens is that we do some unlearning by myself, about my assumptions, but also unlearning kind of about how photography was conceived in the Global South and how it was used in the Global South. So, yeah, I think I say. So what's really important then, what comes out of this slow research really is that we can decolonize some of these approaches around image making. The workshop itself becomes an event where, or a period of time where we can engage with each other, where we have space, where we can build trust, where indigenous photographic practice is celebrated, comes to fruition, gets nourished, and hopefully in the long run, we're going to create something called visual self-governance, where the narrative is completely determined by the Zambian or by the Southern African, or by the photographers we work with.
Bakashimika.
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 Bakashimika. Abaleshimika.
I'm Alexander Bandela, Zambian, born and raised in Lusaka.
So my inspiration for getting into photography mainly is based on my artistic practice, because I'm also a visual artist, painter. So through that, I have been collecting my references through taking photos. There's just something about taking a photo, but there's something more different and deeper when you're exhibiting a print. So the work I'm exhibiting is based off a workshop that we had, Stories of Kalingalinga, which is mainly talking about the stories that have built Kalingalinga. So there's the works I'm telling talk about the history and the current state of Kalingalinga, and just some of the things that have remained through the time that Kalingalinga has been changing. So that's mainly the work I'm exhibiting. The story I'm trying to communicate is just the importance of history and how much it impacts the future, because every place has a history to it. So the history is also seen through the structural change, how people relate to the place, how people talk in other places, and just the existence of certain things in a place that contribute to this place having an identity. So that's mainly where my focus is. Photography is something that you can do and love at the end of the day. It's something you can do in different ways. It's something that you can tell stories, you can show whatever you're thinking about. It's just something you can do and enjoy, and also it's something growing. So for anyone thinking about photography out there, it's definitely something you should go for.
We might have lost the sound. Okay, we continue. You got the gist. So what we really wanted to say as well, kind of, so how much already in such, I mean, it's not a short time because kind of we have engaged for 20 years, but kind of the festival itself and the workshops have achieved so much already. And I think we should celebrate what we have achieved already. So, Edith, do you want to start us off when I come in? We have a conversation.
With self-confidence amongst photographers in Zambia. So, especially lens-based art, because the relationship when it comes to photography in the accepted due to like,
can you
be not only accepted as an art, but also being deemed as a tool that is not worth being used as a self-expressive tool. One example I can give of that is we have this what we call the snap and give cameramen in Zambia that are really not respected, but they do have visual narratives that they actually document and do tell and do talk about. Then also giving Zambian photographers international exposure. Most of the times when it comes to local photographers, we mainly think of our stories being told here, but then the stories that are being told out there about the Zambian photographic scene.
Oh, she's gone.
Okay, I'm going to take over. Yeah, we lost. There we go. So what we really hope to do, kind of, with, or what we have done already, we see it already. We have really kind of a much more confident voice. We have been able to share photography here in the UK. We had an exhibition in the Ruskin Gallery at one point. We showed work in the Emirates. We are showcasing work. We're bringing photographers in. We have photographers, I'll show you a slide in a minute, but we have photographers coming in, and that dialogue is really important. So building that network of this regional network that doesn't go via the global north, but actually kind of functions south to south is really important. And that's what we are hoping to achieve. and raising kind of awareness of all the photographers that actually did exist, but until now haven't been discovered. Sana Jinwala, kind of one of our colleagues who is with us as well, and who is the director of the Everyday Lusaka gallery, she's doing amazing work in uncovering some of the photographic history of Zambia at the moment. So raising awareness of the indigenous history is really important, and Sana is doing incredible work on that front as well. What we're also hoping to do is to create an archive of what is happening right now around photography in Zambia. It really feels like a new wave is happening, something new, exciting is happening. And so often what happens is kind of that there's not an archive of something great happening on the African continent. So what we are really hoping to do is, and what we are currently doing, is building an archive, keeping note of what all these amazing photographers are doing right now. And the other thing is we want to empower researchers from the Global South to use practice research for knowledge creation as well. So really bring in the practice research component into kind of academic thinking, that it's less theoretical, but that their practice, their art can actually be part of knowledge creation. And we see already kind of that there's amazing things happening here as well. Maybe I should just show you, let's see. What's happening? No. There we go. So I'm going to come back to this one. We're going to talk about this maybe once I finish the slides. But this is kind of our reach at the moment. So the yellow dots are what we're planning for this year. The red dots were last year. So there's still a few countries we haven't reached in Southern Africa, but I think it doesn't look too bad. So we are really, really building a network, and all these people are coming together in Zambia, talking about photography, about indigenous photography, so not kind of big names coming in, kind of where people would like to admire them, but their own photography that is relevant, that tells the stories of the place where the photographs are taken. So we got Angola, Burundi, hopefully Burundi, not confirmed yet, but hopefully Burundi, the DR Congo, Kenya, Lesotho, Nigeria, South Africa, UK obviously as well, Zambia and Zimbabwe. So UK is sliding in there. Why is this sliding in? Because we just were awarded a biennial Connect grant, which from the British Council, where we kind of have 2 Zambian photographers and 2 British photographers working together on a story that will come in, that will be exhibited during this year's festival. So we are just putting the call out now for these artists. So if you know anybody, if you're interested in working with us, please do come and find out about it and listen to or watch our social media channels for the next, in the next couple of days, you will find out more. So it's an amazing opportunity for us to bring together Zambian photographers and or Southern African photographers. It's actually open to all of Southern Africa, Southern African photographers and UK British photographers, to think about photography and how to make connections between these 2 continents. We are very lucky that this specific project will be curated by Torella Camps-Tembo from Creative Connect and by Sana Ginwala, who is from Everyday Lusaka Gallery. So they will look after that project for us, and we are super excited about being awarded that grant. We only were allowed to tell people on Thursday, so you're one of the first to know. And then these are all the people that are helping us, and we are super grateful for all these people that are coming on board. If you want to be a part of that as well, please talk to us, but we are very lucky. The ministry has taken note now finally that, well, not finally, but has taken note that we're doing something amazing. Obviously, Anglia Ruskin, a lot of the work that we have done that to come to this point was support, kind of research support and project support. So I'm super grateful for the support here as well. Open Window is our home in Zambia, so they hosted us last year and they generously agreed to host us this year again. Creative Connect, one of our media partners, super helpful. Unpublished Africa is another amazing organization that has just a call out for African photographers to contribute to this year's festival. We got hotels, we got obviously Everyday Lusaka, one of our satellite venues. We have printers in Zambia. So we're really hoping kind of to bring lots of people together. And if you have more people, just bring them in. So this is our website. So if you want to just if you want to quickly QR code it and note it, this is our website. And yeah, so it's Edith Chiliboy, Patrick Chilaisha, Geoffrey Phiri, and myself who are doing this thing. And these are the dates if you fancy a trip to Zambia. So, any questions? So we have time for questions. Does anybody have any questions on? So let me unshare this, then we can see everybody a little bit better. Yes, there we go. Cool. Anybody any questions? Online or I think, can we do online as well? No, we can't do online. We can only do in the room. Ah. Hello, hi Michelle.
More of the images that we can see.
We have.
I don't know if that's ruining the Zoom.
Probably. But do you have, just look bakashimika.com and ask us questions about any of the images. Does that make sense? Yeah? Any other questions? Yes, Nina.
I do have a question about the image with the person next to an electricity thing wearing all the metal.
Yeah. Edith, do you want to tell a little bit about, that's actually one of Edith's pictures.
Oh, I didn't hear the question.
Oh.
Barely heard the question.
Edith, are you frozen?
Frozen.
Looks like she's frozen. No, now you're back. There was a question about the picture kind of the of your project. The woman next to the electricity fence, next to the electricity pylon.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, Ukubuta is more memories from childhood play, and the image that was being displayed there is called Uvukisha. She's wrapped up in newspaper and the newspaper crown because all the knowledge she has gained either via reading, via engagement with her environment, and I didn't quite notice it, but then now that I think about it, when I'm looking at the pole lines in the image itself, they sort of have this connectivity because every single time I'm trying to reflect upon my day or reflect upon my week, I mostly spend my time in the area where the pylons are, where the scope lines are. And so it's more a moment for me to remember every knowledge I've gained, every knowledge I've learned, and how that gets to impact me as an individual and how effective I am. It could be knowledge I've gained through reading, through interactions with my daily life and daily existence. So it's more of like me calling out not only to myself, but to every other person and empowering me to remember everything you've learned and how important it is to embrace it and how that knowledge can actually be of service to the next person after a while. That's why it's called Uvukisha.
There's another. Yeah, you. Sorry, I don't.
I'm interested with the stories of Kalingalinga. I just want to know the background of the story because it's not only Kalingalinga that keeps on changing. There are other compounds that keep on changing. Why pick Kalingalinga?
So for us, Kalingalinga was because it's right central in Lusaka. It just felt, and it's one of these compounds where people drive past a lot. A lot of people know Kalingalinga, but they don't know Kalingalinga. So that they might drive past Kalingalinga. There's a very big thoroughfare through Kalingalinga. So everybody knows that they're passing by Kalingalinga, but very few people actually take time to find out what's going on in Kalingalinga. So that's one of the reasons. And I think what we saw as well, I remember kind of, must have been 2016 when I was there. One of my colleagues, we drove through Kalingalinga and he said, that's the project we need to do. So it came actually out of kind of a conversation of realizing how quickly Kalingalinga is changing. And, you know, it is a representation of, as you say, so many other compounds are changing as well. But we had to pick one, and that seemed to be quite a good one. Thank you. Welcome.
And also, if I should add on to make Kalingalinga a little more interesting, is the fact that there was a lot of craftsmanship going on in Kalingalinga. You would find carpenters there, you'd find people making makeshift baskets or makeshift hand washing basins. And for some time, that place is slowly losing that touch of the creative handmanship that Kalingalinga has. So I think it was also a good pick for it.
Yeah, if you think about the thoroughfare that goes through Kalingalinga, it used to be exactly that. Lots of people kind of that did crafts, and now we see lots of Chinese supermarkets. So you can actually see how it's changing, how the influence, even kind of what the influence of the world is on Zambia at the moment. You can see it within Kalingalinga. There's a yeah. No, you go first.
Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation. I thought it was very, very interesting with the whole team. My question was about how I thought it was interesting that we talked about decolonizing like photographic practices and empower the global south. But I was wondering, how does it look like now in practice, and how did it got to kind of differ from practices that were held before? Is it through the themes, the subjects, or even, you know, since your research, have you seen a huge shift in the last years, for example? Yeah.
Sana Gimwala says kind of we are in the second trimester of a pregnancy for photography in Zambia. So we are not even there yet where we need to be. So yes, I think we're seeing a huge change. But I think, Patrick, I don't know, Edith, do you want to kind of come in what you have observed?
Yeah, actually, it has been a huge change when you see not only what Sana is doing, but there've been a lot of masterclasses on photography. You get to see people that are your normal people, just because of their interest in photography, actually now wanting to take up the art of photography, because there's been a lot of people just using their phones for the little things. Oh, sunset is there, I want to take a photo of the sunset. But because of the major shift that's happening, you see a lot of masterclasses popping up, and you try to attend one of these, or you get to see a lot of people you never expect in any of these spaces also voicing their interest in photography. So yeah, you can see the change slowly and gradually there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the answer.
Maybe I should also say kind of that at the opening last year at the festival, we had 500 people at the opening. So that tells you something, that there's a real hunger for that kind of photography, for seeing a different way of representing the country. And we had 40 photographers in 20 exhibitions. We had lots of workshops ourselves, kind of lots of roundtables, lots of discussions, practical workshops, anything from business advice to creative. What did we do? I can't even remember. Edith, do you want to come in?
Alright. So we also had National come in to give a workshop with an expert photographer who's been in the photography industry for quite some time. And with that being said, and seeing the beginner photographers and those who are just interested in learning more about photography, and those talks and those workshops is a reminder that even as the slow shift of how photography is being seen in Zambia and deconstructing the narrative of
That's such a nice freeze frame. So I think that's lovely. Sorry, there was another question here. So does that answer your question? Yeah, super.
Thank you. So my question would be the event itself. So I want to know about the challenges that to conducting these photography events, because you mentioned that until the 1990s, they didn't have the camera access in Zambia. So I think it's been a 3 decades, so there will be a lot of challenges to conduct and organize these events. Apart from grants, what exactly the challenges that you're facing to conduct these kind of events?
So what happened so there was obviously the colonial period where cameras were restricted, and you only would have photojournalists, or you would have kind of people that photograph on a high street. So what happened then after independence? So kind of when Kaunda came into power, he actually wanted kind of quite a free press, but because of all the wars that were happening outside, all the independence wars that were happening outside of Zambia, there were restrictions around the media, and they became permanent. So kind of therefore there were also quite a lot of restrictions on camera use till 1990, till Kaunda left as president. So we really only are in the second generation of photographers. So the first generation, many of them are very commercially orientated, so building their own businesses in a commercial sense. So this is really the first generation that actually sees it as well as a tool for self-expression. So where you create kind of not necessarily the commercial photography, but you actually think as photography as a medium that you can use to tell stories within the country, that then will bring hopefully self-governance. I don't know, Geoffrey or Patrick, do you want to come in? Geoffrey?
What was the question?
Oh no, so Patrick, you come in then. I think Patrick, you come in first because you wanted to say something anyway, didn't you? And then I come back to Geoffrey.
Okay. Not where to start.
Challenges.
The thing also is, from what I've noticed, also as a commercial photographer transitioned, is that you would find a lot of other commercial photographers have their niche, which is they have the style of photography which they do, but they don't really show people because it has nowhere to go. It just stays on their hard drives, and they go out there, take a photo, whatever they want, and that's it. That's how it ends. So I guess it was part of the reason why Bakashimika also got a little bit more ground, because we understood that a lot of people had this artistic side of them, but nowhere to take it or nowhere to show it off to. So yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to add on.
Geoffrey, did you want to add something?
On the challenges, yes. I think it's always been about it's always been about academia around here and how do you say roots to show. And you just mentioned that look, you just opened just now, and most of the time, I think most of the artists that we've had here, I was keep it to artists, and move on to there. Most of the photo lens based artists have been self-taught, and you can never divorce a level of education from the profession. And yeah, so I think. With the coming of Bakashimika, I think we've taken care of so much that was absent, and yeah, we've provided a platform that there's so much that needs to be done. But Bakashimika as artist is playing a very big part in covering up that void. And the other point was.
Can I just come in
Yeah,
quickly? Can I just come in? So what we noticed is that with Bakashimika, it's not like opening a festival in Cambridge. It is kind of, we actually need to build the foundations as well. We need to build the network. We need to build the infrastructure in Southern Africa to make the festival work. So it's actually a much bigger piece of work than saying, oh, you know, I'm starting a photography festival in Zambia, so in Cambridge, or anywhere else in Europe, really. So I think for us that we definitely notice kind of so to build all these networks, to bring these people together, is not kind of, none of these networks exists until now, until we have started working on those. There's one more question.
You mentioned when you started that this started from you traversing the African continent, taking pictures. And I wondered, do you think that you could have started this perhaps in Eastern Africa or in Western Africa or in Northern Africa rather than Southern Africa? You did mention why Zambia, but do you think it could have started anywhere else? That's one. And then the second one is, how were you able to generate interest at the beginning? Because in some ways, when you started, you said this had been going on for 20 years. When you started it, this was probably new. How were you able to generate interest in this?
So first of all, I think there are similar things happening all over the continent. We just don't know about them. I think that's part of the problem, that we, kind of, and that Bakashimika is hoping kind of to address some of this, of bringing some of these amazing projects that are happening out of the woodwork, so to say, and showcasing them. So we have, which I said kind of about Burundi. So I just spoke to somebody who said she's doing this for 20 years as well. And, and I didn't know about it. I don't, obviously many people did know about it, but so bringing all these people together and making sure kind of that there is a stage for all of these amazing projects that are happening. I mean, there's photography festival in East Africa anyway. I think there's photography festivals in West Africa. What we didn't have was a photography festival in Southern Africa. So I think that's why it's also so unique. But there was another question of...
How did you generate interest when you started?
That's where kind of, I think, the slow research comes in, where you talk to people for a long time and make sure that whatever project is happening is actually for the interest of the community you're researching in. So kind of, so the workshops, the conversations, when I had a sabbatical, I would spend 2 months just talking to people, finding out about issues, problems, kind of what do we need to do next. And I think that's where slow research comes in, where you build trust and, where Patrick and Edith said, yes, we do this together. Do you want to say some more? How did we generate interest?
So I think we did generate the interest. The interest was already there, to be honest, because we'd have different conversations with photographers. And would realize that there's a place, there was a hunger that they wanted to have a space where they could feel valued, and not only feel valued, but sort of respected for the work they do. And besides feeling respected for the work they do, but also a space where they felt welcome, where they could learn, where they could have constructive criticism outside of the Facebook groups or outside of the WhatsApp groups. Yes, we would have these online classes, but then they would teach you the technical side. But then there are those photographers who wanted to tell different types of visual stories. Half the time I would get questions like, are you Zambian? And I'm like, yeah, I am Zambian. And they're like, this is actually possible in Zambia. And to have so many, not only photographers, but non-photographers coming in and say, I want to use my phone to take photos for different types of photography. We had people like Natasha who takes pictures with her phones and then later on integrates them into photo collages. But she didn't know that that was a form of photography, and that was the way of herself expressing herself. And that was one of the many people would have coming in and having that interest, or having people derive from, photography in Zambia is just animals or wildlife, or you have the waterfalls or the touristic side or the NGO photography. So people already had that interest. They wanted to see more. They wanted to have a platform where they could actually share their stories and feel their stories are being heard in that sense. So the interest was already there. The question was, when were we going to build upon that interest and create this space, this community, and have people come together in this one space, the hunger for that space they were looking for.
Thank you, Edith. We are nearly done, I think. Is there any last question? There's one more.
I've just got a question about the sort of commercial side of it, because you shared some examples from the tourist industry and you mentioned NGO photography. These images are driven by the desire of the person who will pay for it. And so I wonder, as you build a commercial photography sector in Zambia so that artists can derive a living from their work, who is buying, who is paying, and how does that change the stories you tell, or how do you protect the stories you tell from that commercial pressure?
Edith, do you want to go?
So there's this thin line between being the commercial photographer in Zambia and being the fine art photographer in Zambia. There are few collectors that are willing to dive into collecting photographic work. And when it comes to NGO photography, when I mention NGO photography, it's mainly photographs of, you'd have poverty-stricken kids or children mainly who ill, or probably it's used as a medical sensory awareness. But every single time we do photography, the thin line between the fine art photography and storytelling photography could be, now we have Wali Magazine, who is collecting photography and stories based on photography to sort of publish it in a way. And then we have a few collectors that are really opening up their eyes and realizing that there are actual fine art photographers in Zambia, and they're finding connectivity to the stories being told. I could give an example of Victor Makapila. He did street photography. That was photography that most people could relate to. So he has this project called Waule Sasadye. It was mainly pictures of people carrying water buckets or heavy loads on their backs. And people could actually relate to that story because they get to see it every single time. And there was a question of, how come we don't see this type of photography around more often? If I were to see this type of photography, I would actually use it. And through that, people get commissioned to work with organizations that are interested in telling stories in unique ways. Besides the commercial documentation of events or launch parties or opening up of new segments or just I think the other one I would rather say is when or boardroom pictures, and it keeps on going and it keeps on being fed that there's more realization. It's more like an awakening towards different stories that can be told using photography, and they can find that stories being told and being represented in a local context rather than always going out there to look for photographic work. You'd have most companies look for photographers. They'll prefer going to South African photographers because they have seen the work, but then when they bring the work here, it does not relate to the environment because we might be in the same region, but we have different traditions and different beliefs and different cities. Nothing looks the same. So you'd have people questioning the photographs being collected or the stories being collected in that aspect. So amongst the collectors, we have private collectors. We have the Chaminuka guys who are now interested in collecting more photographic work. I am one of the first photographers to be collected by them. And then we have other people private collectors who are interested in collecting original photographic stories from Zambia, in Zambia, because they live here and they relate to them. And they want to preserve those images for the next generation, unlike the commercial side. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we do, but I think we need to finish soon. So if you find a...
Oh yeah. So that basically there's this whole ecosystem being built around it. So Bakashimika is creating an awareness towards the different types of photography in Zambia.
Yeah. And just very briefly, maybe as well, kind of, so when we said we also need to build the ecosystem, that's part of what we're building, kind of that network of collectors as well, the network of people that will use that photography. So I would like to say thank you specifically to the technical team, kind of, who has really helped us kind of to make all this happen and kind of to bring everybody together. So thank you very much. And thank you for everybody for coming. Really, we're super excited that there's interest for what we're doing, and please spread the word and come and join us in June in Zambia. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.